Welcome into the Train with the Best podcast. I'm Craig Hoffman, personal trainer, performance coach, and media personality.
I'm Chris Gorres, a 15-year strength and conditioning coach, master trainer, and international educator. This is the Train with the Best podcast where we have conversations with some of the best and brightest minds in the health and fitness industry to make everyone listening, ourselves included, smarter about fitness.
And today, Chris, we're going to focus on communication. There's a book called Crucial Conversations that is like one of the most important books that I've read in my life. My dad made me read it when I was a young professional, and it just talks about communications theory. And the number one takeaway I had from that book is that no communication will ever be received if the person receiving it doesn't feel safe. And so, that's safe in like an emotional sense. Obviously, like physically speaking, if you're like running away from a fire and I'm like, hey, the code for the door is 4038. You're probably not going to remember the code for the door either. But emotionally speaking, right? Like, unless you feel safe, you're not going to be welcoming of information. And so making sure that whether it's a teaching environment and some of the education like peer-to-peer that we've been talking about, or we think about how we talk to our clients to make sure that we're not talking down to them, right? Like, obviously, we're professionals. We should know more than them. And I think sometimes in fitness, because there's so much information out there, like, it can almost be hard for them to remember, like, oh, yeah, we're professionals. Like, just because it's something that's very accessible, fitness being very accessible, doesn't mean that we don't have a heightened level of expertise. But how do we use that heightened level of expertise in a way that elevates their experience and doesn't make them feel dumb, for lack of a better way to put it, and making sure that communication always happens in a way where there's safety involved. And then another thing that I think about too, Chris, with that is like anger, which like obviously we think of communication goes badly, someone lashes out, right? Anger is often a secondary reaction to something else, someone feeling unsafe, for instance. They feel threatened and thus they lash out in anger. And so I think that making sure if you ever do have a client who is upset or a coach or a colleague who is upset for some reason about something, how you react to that to understand the primary reaction and identify what it is that made them, go to anger in the first place is going to help you ultimately resolve that and ultimately get through whatever message that you were trying to get through in the first place.
Yeah, I like how you phrase that, because anger is that secondary response to feeling unsafe, and frustration is a response to repetitive disappointment. So again, like if somebody's angry with you, it's because they probably didn't feel safe. If somebody's frustrated with you, it's because you've repeatedly disappointed them, right? So again, it's part of that self-awareness. Like, am I making my clients or my trainers or the person I'm talking to, do they know where I'm coming from? Am I coming in a safe environment? And am I managing my own ego, my own personality in this conversation? And like you said, what's the goal of this conversation? Is it really to help this person learn and to help them understand the things that I want them to understand, or is it to pound my own chest? And am I going to use language that they don't even understand just to make myself sound smart? Or am I going to yell at them because I'm in a position that I can yell at them and they're not going to yell back, right? Like, those are all things that you have to manage if you want to be an effective communicator. If you want to just pound your chest, keep doing what you're doing. Right.
I mean, that gets back to the original point that I made of like, what's the point of this communication? Because if you want to just be able to be like, I told them everything, it's like, yeah, but did they receive any of it? Yeah. And that's when, asking questions is obviously really important too, right? Like, do you have a dialogue that's back and forth, and do people feel safe enough to be honest with the response, right? Because we've all been in situations where we're just trying to end that communication of whatever it is. We're like, yeah, sure, I got it. Sure, whatever. Yeah, okay. Oh, thank God that's over, right? As opposed to actually engaging in an honest back and forth. And especially, I think this becomes a major factor when you are trying to explain something that's a little bit more complicated, which, I don't know, in fitness, if you're doing super complicated stuff with clients, like that might be a separate podcast, a separate conversation.
Right.
But if you are trying to explain something that's not breaking through for whatever reason, you don't want the client to leave feeling dumb, because that's not a good feeling. Because we've all felt that too. Not very fun, right? So if you can keep that lane of communication open, be super empathetic, be super understanding, and say, well, what is it that where am I losing you? What is it that you are understanding? What part of this do you get? Okay, let's pick back up there. And having those tools to draw those lines clearly, I think is really important, is going to make you a much better communicator. But again, you're never going to be able to intake that information in the first place if the person you're talking to doesn't feel safe.
Thanks for checking out this video. If you like it, we got more. Make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube and check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, or even our website. It's got everything there, all the links you could possibly want. Go check it out, trainwiththebest21.com.